Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Playsafe information session. My name is Kevin Ng. I'm the Data and Digital at Basketball Victoria, and tonight I'm joined from Basketball Victoria by our Chief Operating Officer, Ben Paul, Child Safety Advisor, Sarah, Digital Support Officer, Chantel Cox, and General Manager of Marketing, Communications and Digital, Sarah Addis. And from PlayHQ, we've got their Partnerships Manager, Peter Kotorides, and Customer Lead of Community, Vanessa Lewicki. Before we get going, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet tonight and pay my respects to elders past and present, and also extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us tonight. Now, tonight's session will be recorded and will be sent out in the coming days. But if you've got any questions throughout the session, please feel free to use the Q&A function from within Teams, and we'll do our best to answer them tonight. And if not, we'll get back to you offline. Now, tonight, this is what we're going to be talking about. Ben will take you through the problem and what we're trying to achieve here by helping our clubs and associations manage child safety. And then Pete will take us through Playsafe, how it all works in PlayHQ, provide some user flow so you guys can see what coaches and team managers will be seeing, and also what you need to do as administrators. We'll take you through some of the frequently asked questions that we anticipate, and also thank you to those of you who sent through your questions with your RSVP. We'll have a bit of time for some questions and answers that are asked through the Q&A, and then we'll talk about next steps. So at this point, I'll throw over to Ben, who will get us underway.
Thanks, Kev. G'day, everybody. Great to have so many people on the call. I think we've got over 100 people online, which is fantastic and clearly shows that this is a big priority for everyone and something you're all keen on. As Kev mentioned tonight, I'll just sort of outline the problem and why we got to where we are with Playsafe. As I'm sure for all of you, child safety is our absolute priority, and we firmly believe that every child deserves to play basketball in a safe environment. And while working with children checks aren't the silver bullet and need to be considered as part of a full child safeguarding process, they are the first line of defence we have. Unfortunately, currently, the system we use is failing us. And as you can see on the screen here, there's a few reasons why. The manual process presents hidden risks. And the critical problems we're facing today include manual overload, administrators really drowning in paperwork and spreadsheets. The blind spots, we don't have continuous monitoring of working with children check statuses. We check it at a point in time, and I don't believe many people are checking that regularly. There's fragmented oversight. We don't have a central system to track compliance across clubs. As the sports governing body, BV is here to help you manage this, but currently we don't have a way of oversight and helping you do that. There's also human error risk. So manual process create gaps where children could be at risk. It only takes one expired working with children check or one revoked check that slips through the cracks, and we could have a catastrophic issue. So what does this mean for BV and our associations and clubs? It means we needed to find a way to improve the process, improve the system, reduce the compliance risk and avoid potential legal and regulatory violations, reduce the hours that administrators are spending manually collecting and checking, working with children checks, ensure that expired or invalid checks aren't going unnoticed. We really don't want to be a sport that has a major incident where there should have been a check, it didn't happen, and we have an incident which damages basketball's reputation in the community. We're going through a really exciting stage with basketball. The sport's never been more popular, and we need to make sure that we're at the forefront and leading the way in terms of providing a safe sport. We can't afford to wait. Every day that we delay is another day that we operate with unnecessary risk to the children in our care. So what's the solution? Well, we thought automating the working with children check management system and fully integrating it into the way we work, not creating another system that you'll need to learn and integrate into your daily operations. To do this, we engaged PlayHQ to help us find a solution which embedded the working with children check in the registration process and reduced the need for manually checking and collecting. We took it one step further and also incorporated the BV Member Protection Declaration into the process. And I know some of you may not even know what the Member Protection Declaration is. That's okay. It's something that's always been around, and we've required all of our individuals who are bound by the BV Child Safeguarding Policy and Code of Conduct and who have contact with children and young people to complete as part of their work or volunteering, having a volunteer position in basketball. In the past, associations and clubs have had to chase up coaches, team managers, and have them sign the declaration annually. Keep that on file and make sure that they, are collecting that at least annually or at the start of each season. What we found was that compliance with the MPD was pretty low, particularly at domestic level, where maybe the message wasn't filtering through. Coaches are often parents of players. They're called in at the last minute, and this is a step that gets missed, but a very important step to ensure that we're creating a safe environment. So why not do them both at once? That's what we've worked with PlayHQ to try and develop. The project does represent a significant financial investment by BV, as this kind of technology and the ongoing monitoring doesn't come cheap. So initially, the functionality will only apply to coaches and team managers, but as the process rolls out and we get a better understanding of how many checks we're doing, we'll look to hopefully expand the scope and include other volunteer roles as well. So I know you've all been waiting to find out about how this is going to work, how it looks. So I'm going to throw over to Peter from PlayHQ, who's going to take us through some of the processes, give us a bit of a look under the hood, and see what Playsafe can do. So Peter, take it away.
Thanks, Ben, and g'day everyone. Thank you again for joining us. I just, before we start, want to say a massive thank you to the Basketball Victoria team for partnering with us on this really exciting feature. Like Ben said, it's something that we're excited to bring to the community and really make the sport of basketball as safe as possible for all the children involved, and to continue to grow it as you're doing an amazing job, all of you so far. So what we're excited to introduce today is Playsafe, which is our automated child safety compliance tool. Effectively, what Playsafe does is it creates weekly working with children checks to eliminate that manual verification that you're all currently doing, whether it's week to week or month to month or at the start of the season. Now that's all gone. It's all going to be done automated straight through the registration form of PlayHQ, which is really exciting. This will obviously reduce the legal and reputational risk that comes with when we're doing it manually, like Ben said before. And it's something really scalable and will happen really quickly and make, hopefully, all your lives a lot easier when you're managing your clubs. So what else is new as part of Playsafe? So one of the things that you might notice is previously, if you hadn't added your working with children check into when you were going through your registration flow as a coach or a team manager, you weren't able to go back into your profile and add it. We've fixed that. Now participants can access and update their working with children credentials within their PlayHQ profile after they log in, even if they haven't already added it in registration. Working with children checks will have statuses tied to what we call eligibility. What that means is if someone registers and they don't have their working with children check, they can still go through, do the registration process, but they won't be able to be allocated to a team unless their working with children check is valid. So they'll need to go into their profile, update their update their credentials if they, had forgot their card during registration. They do that through the profile, update it. If it's valid, they'll then be able to get allocated to a team or auto allocate if they were registering to a team. Another thing now, clubs will have access to reporting. So you'll be able to schedule a report, which will go to your email however often you like. I think we're recommending with BV about 6 weeks, as what you'll see, one of the statuses that we provide is an expiring soon status, which will give you a 6-week notification effectively to let you know that, hey, someone's working with children check will be expiring soon. And finally, what Ben touched on before, the member protection declaration, that will now be as part of in registration and part of that process. And it's a really easy way for clubs and Basketball Victoria to be able to go through, make sure everyone is adhering to those policies, and being able to provide, like we said, that much more streamlined option. So how will it work? This is a bit of an overview before we get to the screenshots. Effectively, step one, coaches will go into their, and team managers will go into the registration flow as per usual, but they'll come to like the Playsafe, the child verification screen. They'll enter all their working with children details. The second step is as they're entering those details and we can click a check button, what that'll do is that'll make sure that all the information they've put in is correct, in the sense that all the numbers are right. There's the right amount of numbers. They're in the proper alphanumerical order. You know, their expiry date is in the future, not in the past. All these things to make sure that, hey, we know we're getting the right information here. From there, once they continue, then the check will be sent to our partners, OHO, who will be doing these verifications. And while they're doing their registration, if anything happens, like there's a revocation which is found on a working with children check, that revocation will be sent directly to Basketball Victoria, so then they can help you manage how to manage and kind of remove that person from coaching or being a team manager. So that's kind of the overview of how Playsafe will work. Here's a screen in the registration flow of what it will look like for coaches and team managers when they're entering their details. They'll select their state of issue, which is obviously Victoria. They'll be able to choose if they have an exemption. Now, currently, the only exemption that we're providing is for teachers, as we're able to check their VIT number. They'll then be able to add their working with children number if they haven't chosen for an exemption, add their expiry date, and then really important part, they've got to add their full name as it appears on their working with children card. The reason why we're getting people to add their full name again is because, as you can probably be aware, a lot of people will have maybe their maiden name in their Play HQ profile, but then their married name in their working with children check card, or vice versa. They might have a middle name letter, or they might have a shortened first name in their Play HQ profile, but their full name in the working with children check card. So we want them to make sure we're adding the details exactly how they appear on that working with children check card to make sure we can bring back a result. The registration flow, as we were speaking about before, that light verification. So this is kind of what it will look like. They can click the check button. If all the details look good, they'll be able to keep going through. If something's wrong, like the expiry date's off, or the not enough numbers and letters in the right order in their in the working with children number, it'll basically say, hey, that doesn't look correct. We need you to go back and properly fill that out. From there, they get to the registration flow, and this is the member protection declaration part. I'll hand back over to Ben to give you a bit more of an insight of how this will work.
Thanks, Peter. As I mentioned, bringing this into the registration flow, we hope will be a big time saver and workload reduction for administrators. As we said, all coaches and team managers will be required to review the declaration. So you can see here in the shot on the left, it lists all the clauses that someone's declaring. They've got three options. They can click I agree to all clauses, which is pretty self-explanatory. The second option, I'm not able to agree to all clauses. If they select that one, they'll receive the shot that you can see here on the right. Red box pops up with a direct link to apply for an exemption, which goes straight through to BV's integrity department. So no need to jump out, email people, follow a separate flow. It's all contained within this process. That person can't take the court or hold a role with children until they either get an exemption, or if they apply for one and they don't receive the exemption, they shouldn't be taking a role operating with children. The third option there is that they already have an exemption from a prior registration. They've contacted BV and BV's issued them an exemption. They can tick that third box, which says, I have an existing exemption, and they'll be able to flow through the process. Similar to the working with children check, this is a really important step for us and for you to know that your people that you're putting on the court, looking after children, operating and liaising with children, are meeting all the terms and conditions that BV require to provide a really safe environment for the kids. So hopefully that covers that one off. Pete, we'll throw that back to you.
Thanks, Ben. This is the screen which people can now see when they go into their profile. So obviously now when they log into their PlayHQ profile, they go to their accreditations, they can navigate to the child safety screen. This is really important because this is going to be the area where people will need to update their working with children credentials if they've expired during the season, or for instance, like we said before, maybe during registration, they didn't have their card on them. So they go through and register. And then when they get home later that night or on the weekend, they can log back in, make sure they add their working with children check details or the exemption, and make sure they get that valid result. Like here, they can also see the status as well. So that's really important part as well. They can see the status if it's valid, pending, expired, or expiring soon. We're going to go through a few different scenarios now as administrators that you'll be able to, I guess, understand and act upon, and what you'll be able to see in the admin portal kind of in real time, and what you can be looking for if things, maybe you're getting questions and maybe something's not looking right, and also just when you're allocating people to your teams and things like that to ensure that they're in a valid state when doing so. So the first scenario we're looking at here is someone's registering as a team manager. They have entered their working with children check and registration. What will happen is they'll enter the admin portal as pending, and within a minute they should update to valid as long as all their credentials are A-OK. This would be, for instance, if maybe you get someone asking, hey, I just did my working with children check and it's coming back as pending, but I'm pretty sure all my details are correct. That might be because they've really gone through the registration process really quickly and checked it before we've had a chance to check it in the background, or if maybe there's a bit of a lag because there's hundreds and hundreds of people checking it as well at the same time. So here we are on the admin portal. We're having a look at Cameron's. We can see he's got a registration pending. And here, when we come to his child safety information, you can see that all his info is in there, but it's still pending. So all we would suggest in this situation, just refresh the page after a couple of seconds, and we should be able to pull back a valid result, considering everything is valid and A-OK. Second scenario is someone's registering as a team manager. They've skipped entering their working with children check and registration. And so they do enter the season as pending until they go back and enter their working with children credentials in the profile, like we saw the screen before. So we have a look here. Kristen's shows that she has a registration pending. We go down, we check a child safety details, and here you can see there's nothing that's been added. Hence why she is pending. We're also having a look here at the eligibility criteria. You can see for VJBL, all the participants will need to have their child safety working with children check profile verified, and the status will need to be a green tick for them to be able to be allocated. So this is that eligibility criteria we were talking about before. A good thing to think about here is these overrides will not be available for any administrator. The only people that can override and make adjustments to anything with working with children related will be Basketball Victoria. No one else will be able to. So if you're an administrator and one of your participants, your coaches or your team managers asking you, can you see if you can edit something? You will not be able to. This is done for liability reasons. It has to be done by the participant. The third scenario is someone registers as a team manager. They do enter their working with children check and registration. This is like if they registered, say, for winter season, and then they're coming into summer season and the details are in registration, but they've already expired. What this will look like when they go back, when you're in your admin portal. So we can go down here. We saw that their registration's pending. We check the child safety. It's showing as expired. And you can see here their eligibility criteria is invalid. There's no green tick, which means they can't be allocated to a team. The final scenario, this is someone who registers as a team manager. They do enter their working with children check in registration. By the time they finish registration and it's complete, OHO would have brought their details back and they've got a valid confirmation that their working with children check is all good. And you'll see that their pending registration is updated to valid as soon as we get that result. So you can see here, we go down, we can see their child safety is valid, their details are there, which is awesome. We have a look at their eligibility criteria. You can see we have the green tick. And then we can see here, as the team manager, they're paid and their registration's active, which means they're in a team, they're good to go. Guys. As we just saw, these are the different statuses that you will see in registration. We've got the valid, the pending, the expired, and the other one, which is expiring soon as well. You'll be able to see these in two areas. You'll be able to see them underneath the coach section, as well as in the child safety. And then you'll also have the eligibility criteria section you can see too. We're pretty much through the frequently asked questions, so I'll throw back to Kev. He's going to help us go through this part.
Yeah, thanks for that, Pete. So what we've got here, we've got some of the questions we anticipate your coaches and team managers will be asking you guys. So these are answers that we're providing to help equip you to respond to them. And then we've also got a slide next up that talks about some of the frequently asked questions we anticipate from you as club administrators and association administrators. So the first one is, I don't have my working with children check on me, or have only just applied for one and haven't received it yet. Can I still register, Pete?
Yes, as we said before, definitely. We didn't want to stop people from being able to register. We want people, obviously, we don't want to create any barriers for them to be able to get in and do as much as possible before the season starts. So we're allowing them to register. They will, though, need to go back, log into their profile and update their working with children check once they do have their card on them. Until then, like we said before, and we saw on those screens, it'll show them as pending and they won't be able to be allocated to a team.
Thank you. The next one, I didn't add my working with children check during registration. How can I add them back in? So I'll just get you to reiterate that one again, Pete.
Yeah, for sure. So again, if you don't add it in registration, you need to log into your PlayHQ profile, navigate to the section where it will show you your working with children details, update your working with children details and check them. And then, like we said, within under a minute, do a bit of a refresh and you should get a result back.
Now, before you covered off some of the scenarios about pending registrations, and whilst pending, they can't be added to a team. Why would it still be pending if all the standard reasons you would expect as an administrator are checked off?
Yeah, for sure. So what we're finding is that the main reason that someone really would stay as pending, even after they've added their details in their working with children section, it's likely because there's something wrong with either their name or the numbers. There's some kind of that they haven't added in the details exactly like it is on their working with children card. It's going to be as simple as even missing like the letter of the middle name, the first letter of their middle name. Like we said, maybe they've added their married name instead of their maiden name, or a shortened first name instead of their full first name.
Yeah, sorry, finish off, Pete. Sorry.
Yeah. What we suggest them doing is going back, double checking, logging into their profile, and then making sure they're adding it exactly like it is on their card. So if it doesn't work during registration, they do have that ability to go back, log in, and update it in their profile.
Yeah, cool. And as mentioned, the standard ones are my number's wrong or my card has expired, and that would cause it to be pending when they go to register. All right, now over to the FAQs for administrators. Let's get you to flick over to the next one, please, Pete. All right, I am a registered police officer. Do I still need to provide working with children check details? I might throw to Ben for this one.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kev. I can see this has come up a few times in the Q&A. Obviously, this is a big change for our current policy, and it does differ from the working with children check policy, where police officers are exempt. That exemption relates more to their day-to-day operations and not so much their role as a coach. So BV's made it policy that police officers will require a working with children check. The only exemption that we will allow is the Victorian teachers registration, and that is purely because their working with children check and the teachers rego are the only two things that we can regularly check to ensure they're valid. If a police officer is stood down for their behaviour or whatnot, there's no mechanism to notify basketball club or association that they've lost their their badge is not valid. So again, it creates a loophole where we don't have a mechanism to regularly check and ensure that they are holding a valid position and should be working with children. So as I said, it's a big change. This is going to be one you're going to have to help us push down to your members and your coaches. There may be some pushback because of the working with children check exemption, but this is BV policy to require police officers to get a check. They're free for volunteers. They take about 5 minutes. We don't really see any valid reason why police officers should resist getting one if they want to coach children.
All right, thanks, Ben. How are exemptions handled in Playsafe? I know, Pete, you showed us before. Just reiterate that for our administrators.
For sure. So as you saw earlier on in the registration flow, when you get to the working with children section or the child safety verification section, you'll be able to choose the exemption. As Ben mentioned just now, the only exemption that's being allowed is going to be for teachers, because we can automatically check their VIT number and make sure that they're currently valid. That is the only thing that you'll be able to be exempt for, obviously, unless you're a coach or a team manager who's under 18 years old.
Right. Can administrators override a participant's child safety status? Pete?
No, as we saw in the screens before, administrators from clubs and associations won't be able to override child safety status. This is really important because it creates an issue with liability if we allow for that, and there's no real audit trail to understand who was the person who maybe overrid something when maybe they shouldn't have. So we're putting it back on the participants. It's up to them really to make sure that they have a working with children check, that it's valid, it's up to date. And the only people that can really make any adjustments will be Basketball Victoria.
And from Basketball Victoria's point of view, I might ask Ben or Sarah this question. The child safety status override would mostly be for exemptions of member protection declarations. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe so, Kev. There may be some very fringe scenarios where we may need to override, a unique situation that sits outside the norm. But I don't foresee us doing too much overriding. The only possibility is if, there was a notification to us directly about a child-related matter that potentially the working with children check hasn't yet changed. We may be able to pull that trigger, which is not dissimilar to what we do now. If we have a member protection issue and we need to make someone suspended in the short term pending further investigation.
Thanks, Ben. What if a participant's working with children check expires mid-season? Might ask you that one, Pete.
Yeah, no problems. Thanks, Kev. So if someone's working with children check does expire mid-season, we are not going to remove them from the team. So they'll still actually remain allocated to that team. We understand that sometimes these things take a little bit of time, although we do want our coaches and team managers to have a valid check whenever they do step on the court. So we are hoping that by using the reporting mechanisms and the expiring soon badge and notification, you'll be able to alert those people with plenty of time to be able to reapply and update their working with children's check add it into the system and make sure that it's valid before it expires.
All right, thank you. And finally, how long does the working with children check validation take? So you showed us before that the participant will register. How long does the actual check with OHO, with the Department of Justice, take?
It should take around a minute, usually a little bit less, depending on how much load's going through the system. So maybe if you're registering on the night where registration's open, after VJBL tryouts or something like that, and there's a lot of people going through the system, it might take a little bit longer than a minute or two. But overall, we're thinking around that kind of sub 1 minute, kind of 50 seconds time mark.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks, Pete. Now we might check to see if there's any questions that have come through via the Q&A that we might want to discuss live. Chantel.
Okay, we've got one question, which is, if somebody is not working with kids under the age of 18, why do they require a working with children's check? Ben?
Good question, Chantel. Peter, are you able to help us out here just in terms of the mechanism? What triggers the requirement to enter the details for a coach?
Yeah, if you're not working with children under the age of 18, the working with children check will still be there. Big part of that is because, as we know, even in some senior competitions and things like that, there are youth players available to play in those comps. Until then, that's something that we'll have to figure out with Basketball Victoria. But currently, if you are in a over 18 and you're a coach or a team manager, we'll need you to add that working with children check in.
So it's like a blanket check that's done on everyone who registers the coach or team manager role.
I think the other thing there, guys, is that a lot of senior domestic teams don't have a coach or a team manager registering currently. They're generally a group of people playing together. So the instances of those people coaching are probably minimal, but it's something that we'll keep working through.
Okay, cool. Were there any others, Chantel, that we want to discuss live, or have you answered them all via the Q&A function?
So there's a question around, what about interstate players or coaches, I should say?
Sure. So the great thing about this system is we can actually check anyone's working with children check from any state, in the sense that if I was previously in WA and I had a revocation against my name in WA, the OHO system actually kind of compiles all the working with children checks across all of Australia. And so if something's been flagged there, we'll actually get a notification to say, hey, BV will get a notification to say, hey, this person might be someone that you need to look into a little bit further, investigate a little bit further. In the current state right now, for Basketball Victoria, only Victorian working with children checks will be, the Victorian working with children check will be checked. But like I said, if there's any other issues and they can connect any names or date of births to anyone else, that will get flagged in the system.
Thanks, Pete. We might take one or two more if there are any, Chantel.
I've seen a couple there, Kev, that I'm happy to just quickly knock over. So as I touched on earlier on, there's significant investment involved in this. That's why at the moment we're limiting it to coaches and team managers. We actually don't know exactly how many coaches and team managers there are. So as you can imagine, when you're paying per check, if we open this up to every possible volunteer in the system, we might have to raise the fees significantly next year, which is something we don't want to do. So what we're doing is staggering that approach, starting with coaches, team managers. Once we have a better understanding of the volume, then we'll look at broadening that out to other roles. But certainly we would love to have every person that's working with children in the basketball community being checked through the system. So hopefully that answers that question. there was another one here just around OHO. So OHO are a partner. There's a question around, there's a fair degree of trust here being placed in OHO. Can you tell us how their process works? So to put everyone at ease, you can jump on the Working with Children check system right now. If you've got the credentials to check someone's card number and name, and get that checked. It's open access. All you need is those details. So OHO aren't collecting and holding the people's details. They're just simply verifying that through that system. So we're collating all the information through PlayHQ, and I think we can share some information in the FAQs around PlayHQ's data security aspects, because I know that question will probably come up also.
All right, I've just got a couple more for Pete, and then we might wrap up. So if I'm a participant who is under 18 at the time I register, and then I turn 18 mid-season, what happens there?
So at the time of registration, if you're under 18, you won't have the ability to add your Working with Children's check. Once you turn 18, again, this is kind of probably one of the fringe cases where we will need our admins to help us out. We'll need to contact that person and say, hey, you're now 18. We need you to, make sure you've applied for a Working with Children check, and go into their profile and add it to make sure they're valid. They won't get, like we said before, once they're in the team, they won't get removed from that team though. So they will stay allocated to that team, which should give them a little bit of time, make sure give you a chance to get on top of it, make sure they get their Working with Children check and upload it into the system.
If that does happen, even though they won't be removed from the team, the administrator will still be flagged via reports, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
With their child safety status.
Yeah.
And I might just go maybe one more. If I'm a coach or a team manager and I register to multiple tournaments in a year, do I need to put in my Working with Children credentials every time, or does it remain in my profile?
No, it remains in your profile, which is great.
Fantastic. All right, thanks for all those questions. Let's move on to next steps. So what we need to do now, administrators of clubs and associations, notify your coaches and team managers that this is coming, okay? So they know what to expect when they next register. Advise your coaches and team managers that the Member Protection Declaration is now in PlayHQ. As Ben mentioned, this is something that has been required of all coaches and team managers in the past, albeit via paper. Now this is happening from within PlayHQ, which will make that process a lot more seamless. Ensure your coaches and team managers who are police officers apply for their Working with Children check. It's, as Ben mentioned, it is free for volunteers. And also alert your parents of the improved child safeguarding steps that are being implemented here. It's important that we as a basketball community are making sure our participants and also our parents are comfortable with the sport that they're participating in. We're doing everything we can to ensure a great experience for their kids. Now, we're in the stages of finalising testing. This will be turned on for the VJBL first in the coming weeks, and then we'll look to roll it out to the rest of the state later in the year, but more information will follow shortly. So that's all for this presentation. So that concludes tonight's information session. As mentioned, the session has been recorded and this will be sent around in the coming days. If you've got any questions in the meantime, please visit support.playhq.com, scroll down a bit, hit the Contact Us button and follow the prompts for Basketball in Victoria. Otherwise, thanks for attending and enjoy the rest of your evening.